Guys, today we're going to be talking about communication with children and young adults. Why is good communication important? According to the Communication Trust, poor language can be linked to poor behavior, and there's a study that shows that at least 60% of children in the justice system have communication needs. Due to these communication needs, children and young adults may not understand what is being said to them and may make the mistake of making a decision that may affect their lives forever. Children and young adults also may feel intimidated or scared when talking to an officer or anybody in the justice system, and they may not be able to get their point across. Some distinguishing characteristics within children and young adults and the way they make decisions may be how they're raised as a child, and whether or not they have a stable guardian, like if they have both parents, one parent, or any parent at all with them. If their household is safe, also plays a big factor in the decisions that they make. Location also is really big in making decisions. Whether or not they may have lived in the ghetto or in a rich neighborhood, whether they were in a poverty neighborhood or rich neighborhood, all of these play big factors into the decisions that children and young adults make in the future.
So the next slide. What does the criminal justice system need to know for effective communication? So the first thing I said was create programs in schools and around your neighborhood for people to meet up or anything. And then I also put nonverbal communication. This is not only written words, but this is also gestures, the way your body language, how you talk to them, the way you look at them, stuff like that. And then I put community policing is very important. It creates partnerships between law enforcement and the residents. So doing simple things like playing basketball around the neighborhood, or a police officer taking a walk with a kid, he sees someone walking, come up to them, have a conversation with them. A good quote I put was, in the simplest form, community policing creates partnerships between law enforcement and residents. The more involved law enforcement is with the residents they are sworn to protect, the more residents can help law enforcement achieve their goals. The next one is, how is communication broken down between the criminal justice system? Social media is a huge influence when it comes to media. We all know there's something constantly negative about a police officer or the criminal justice system, something in court. But there's always something about police brutality on, as we can tell in our generation. But yeah, journalists, they try to get our attention, and they can create a story that's sometimes biased or very fake. So the facts aren't always presented truly in the story. A good quote I have is, however, while it is true that smartphones have enabled victims of police brutality or other forms of injustice to share their stories, viral negative images of policemen on social media have little to no effect on the way minorities perceive law enforcement in general. By Ashcroft. So here we can see that I have a graph. So basically this graph describes the majority of police officers say that they're mistreated by media, so how people perceive them and that they're basically wrong. So this is a research done by Pew Research Center survey. It's by the National Police Research Platform. So this basically describing more in depth about how U.S. police officers see significant challenges on the job, doing their day-to-day job, just driving around and patrolling. But these statistics basically show that how they're mistreated, and social media can get it all wrong sometimes. When you're getting pulled over, sometimes people assume, oh, you're pulling me over because of this or that, and it's simply wrong. So what are some suggestions for better communication? I put providing children and young adults with the opportunity to develop positive behaviors in the foundation. So like obviously we want to prevent crime from happening and violence. So I put providing mentoring activities, opportunities for the youth and children. guidance from schools and increasing the safety for learning opportunities. So having the option to stay after school and do your homework with your friends, or play volleyball outside, or play basketball or football. And then I also put youth service within the communities, so gathering up with your neighborhood and talking about it.
Now I'm going to be talking about the Milton Keynes Youth Offending Team, and this team works under the Communication Trust that I mentioned earlier on. This team works with young people ages 10 to 18 who have a court order or pre-court disposals. The Milton Keynes Youth Offending Team uses the national evidence on prevalence that states the majority of children and young people in the youth justice system have some form of speech, language, and communication needs. In 2008, 65% of the young people assessed at the Milton Keynes Youth Offending Team did have some sort of speech, language, or communication need. Some tips from the Youth Offending Team when talking to children or young adults include: when an officer or someone in the justice system speaks to a child, they should have the child repeat back to them in their own words what has just been said to them. That way you are able to make sure the child understood what you have told them. Officers should avoid using jargon or police language when speaking to a child. And if you are unable to avoid using jargon, then you should make sure that you thoroughly explain in words that the child understands what you are saying to them. The Milton Youth Keynes Offending Team also raises a lot of awareness about the speech and language communication needs that children have, and they have worked with the Crown Prosecution Service, legal advisors, magistrates, district judges, social care colleagues, and staff working in schools or the pupil referral units, and special education needs and disabilities. Now I'm going to be talking about a case study that the Milton Keynes Youth Offending Team worked on. They met a child, and we're going to call this child H, when he was 11 years old, and he was following a youth conditional caution. H was taken out of regular secondary school and was put into a pupil referral unit. While he was at the pupil referral unit, the youth offending team suggested that the pupil referral unit apply to the education and healthcare plan for H. And then 2 years later, the Milton Keynes offending team found out that H was charged with more offenses, and his behavior had increased and had escalated, which resulted in regular use of restraints at the pupil referral unit. And so earlier on, when he had first moved to the pupil referral unit, he had taken an assessment, and it had shown that he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder as well as oppositional defiant disorder. And due to the youth offending team helping the justice system understand that he had these communication needs and that he needed more support, he was able to avoid going into custody and instead got community service hours. And after his community service hours, H was sent to specialist provision school, where they were able to help meet his needs with communicating. That is the end of our presentation.
Done.